And today our speaker, first of all, let me tell you that today's program is totally by unplanned, I would say, and it is totally Gurudev's mercy. We have not planned any of these items today. In fact, for Kirtan also, I requested just 5 minutes before to Prabhuji. Actually, I forgot that Madhav Prabhu said his voice is not so good. So I forgot, and suddenly I remembered. And by chance, I happened to talk to Madhusudan Prabhuji this morning, and he told me that I can call him anytime for Kirtan. So I just remembered and I immediately called him and he was ready in 5 minutes. So Gurudev brought him on the program which was without any plan. And same is the case with Madhavananda Prabhu. He is today joining us from other side of the globe, from Mexico. So thousands of miles away. And I do not know Prabhu. I have never met him in my life. And there was no program to get him on this program because I don't know about him at all. But Gurudev's mercy is such that he can bring anybody on the program anyhow. So today actually Radhika was supposed to speak, Radhika Manchanda, but she almost forgot or there was some confusion. So she said she's not ready. But so I was worried who to call now. It's such a short notice. And very mercifully Radhika herself arranged, called Madhav Prabhuji, and he very readily agreed. And in fact, he was very happy to come on the program at a very, very short notice. So Prabhuji, first of all, I must thank you very much for being here at a very, very short notice. Normally, it's not very easy to get people at such short notice. So I think he was already having
Gurudev's mercy. I'm a very poor replacement for Radhika Manchand, but I have some nectar of Gurudev.
Yes. So I think Prabhuji was already having some inspiration from Srila Gurudev, and probably he wanted to speak something about him. And Gurudev in a very mysterious way arranged that for him.
Yes. So that Kirtan had so much utkanta. He's very tadatmik with Gurudev. I felt so much of his longing for Gurudev's mercy in that bhajan. I very much appreciated it. Helped my consciousness prepare for being able to speak in the glories of Srila Gurudev.
Great, Prabhuji, great. So let me give a short introduction because I'm also meeting him for the first time on this Zoom. I've never met him before. Even though he's a very, very senior devotee, he was given initiation by Srila Gurudev in 1997. That is second year when he went to the West. 96 he went. So 97 he got initiation from Srila Gurudev in Bejar. Then he spent the next 13 years traveling with Srila Gurudev as much as he could, serving in various ways throughout his global travels. So I must say Prabhuji is very, very with a lot of association with Gurudev in all this, so many of his travels and so many places. Then he worked with Govinda's Bliss Bar Company and always ready to serve the devotees with his awareness of healthy prasad and holistic healing. I did not know about this Bliss Bar at all. Today morning I was talking to Vijay Krishna Prabhu. He had lived in the US for some time and he told me about this company that they used to make some protein bar sort of things. So he gave me something. I don't know what is happening now to this company. He said now we don't hear about it. But yeah, it used to be very popular at that time. So today I got to learn this also. And then he is based in Maui. They hosted Srila Gurudev first few years, and he was fortunate to attend most of the Bejar and Hawaii festivals and bring many fortunate souls to Sri Gurudev's lotus feet. So as you can see, he has done a lot of service in bringing a lot of fortunate souls to Srila Gurudev in his lotus feet. So today we have Pujyapada Madhavananda Prabhuji from Mexico.
Actually, I'm in Austin, Texas right now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No.
So from Austin, Texas.
Yes.
So we are going to hear about his experiences, about his anubhutis, realizations, and about his journey, spiritual journey, how he came to Gurudev, how he met him, and then how he met various other devotees, and how he was blessed by Gurudev's, he was touched by his energy, and how he is directing his life even now, and how he made his life so beautiful and successful. So Prabhuji, thank you very much, first of all, to come on the program, and Dandavat pranams to you. And you can start. You have a lot of time. You can speak till 9 hour and a half you have, yes.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuntam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Om Vishnu Vedaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishima Bhakti Vedanta Narayana. So I thank you for doing this service to inspire all of Gurudev's devotees, especially ones so fallen such as I, to be able to be engaged in the service of speaking about his glories, because for many devotees, our Harikatha is not so bona fide. I can't speak about Krishna's pastimes. I can't speak about Mahaprabhu's pastimes with any real relationship. But anyone who's been touched by Srila Gurudev has a little bit of potency, no matter how many faults, to be able to glorify their guru from direct firsthand experience. And I've always loved that from hearing from the devotees of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada and any senior in the Guru Parampara speaking directly of memories. So I'm, when expressed in a humble way. So I'm very grateful for the fact that I have had so much of Srila Gurudev's association and always wishing that I could have been of more service. And now I realize there's always more service to Sri Guru. And it's just about having that taste and that enthusiasm. So I'll begin with my story. Basically, I was raised by hippie parents living in Hawaii in a treehouse. Very unstructured environment. My parents were the type that would have met Srila Prabhupada, but never got the chance. My dad had a guru, some Mayavad guru that my mom didn't like very much, and she was very anti-guru. And she had her high school boyfriend who was supposed to meet her in Hawaii go off and be a brahmachari at the Honolulu temple. So even before I came in, Krishna took her high school boyfriend. Then when I ended up meeting the devotee, she was very first worried because Krishna had already stolen her boyfriend, and now Gurudev stole me away. So the quality of Krishna is that he's a thief. And so over time, I had the experience of meeting the devotees, hearing the mantra, but I was very not interested in any organized religion. I wanted to do everything in my own terms. And bit by bit, I learned to hear some Harikatha, but in Maui, where I was, the guru there was not very much someone who I had so much faith in, but I felt that it was good to hear the Bhagavad Gita, the scriptures, but I still did not have much faith. Then I read Shri Guru and His Grace by Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, and that made it very clear to me what the position of Guru was. And I realized that this person was a preacher. And so I just put out that desire for a pure guru. And then by Guru Pranim, the first disciple of Srila Gurudev, Krishna Vallabha, came with a picture of Gurudev. And on Guru Pranim, I saw his picture and knew that was my guru, that was my teacher. And at this time, I had not very much a favorable experience with ISKCON. And so it was very difficult for me because I was into chanting, but I did not fully respect Srila Prabhupada because I felt like ISKCON was a very bureaucratic religion. And I had all of this resistance to ISKCON. So very mercifully, Srila Prabhupada came in a dream to me, and I realized I was dreaming. I'm like, I'm with Srila Prabhupada, and he started instructing me and speaking to me, and I realized, wow, I'm dreaming of Srila Prabhupada. He must be a pure devotee like my Gurudev. I hadn't even met Gurudev yet, but I had faith in him because I had seen his picture and I knew that he was real. And then Srila Swami Maharaj came to me, and I was like, okay, they're both real. Now I have to meet Srila Gurudev. So I went the first time to the mainland from Hawaii in like 5 years. And I go there to meet Srila Gurudev, and I could feel from like about 100 feet away this presence that I was about to meet someone that was like an avatar, like there's unlike anyone I ever came across before. And the moment I connected with Gurudev, I knew, yes, this is my eternal father, spiritual teacher that I was looking for. But it was very testing for me because I was so new to Krishna consciousness. I was very much still arguing with many people about many things, and had a lot of deep-seated Mayavad concepts. And so it was something where I actually went into this purge right after I met Srila Gurudev, where I was crying for like 3 hours straight above the pandal, because I was like, how am I going to be a devotee? There's all these older people that have been following Prabhupada for years. There's no one my age here. They only have young kids, and they're old Prabhupada devotees. No one my age at all. They're all very, very disciplined, spiritual practitioners who've been practicing many years. And I'm just getting into this. All my friends are hippies. I know he's a pure devotee, but how am I going? I just saw so much suffering of being not able to practice with all these very exalted devotees who I was still like getting to know, and a very, very higher standard than I had ever met at all as far as sadhana goes. And then I just saw, I was 22 years old. I was just like, oh, I have so many material desires. I'm just getting interested in Krishna consciousness. It's chanting and dancing, hearing some philosophy, but now I know this is real. Srila Gurudev is real. Krishna is real. I can feel it emanating from him. And what am I to do now? I have no austerity. I was raised in hippie parents. I have no ability to be anything in this organization. They're also young kids who are raised vegetarian pure devotees, and so I was very much concerned. So I was out there crying for a couple hours going, I have no material life, and spiritually I'm such a baby, and I've been given this very high spiritual teacher who I do not know how in any way I can serve. So I was there, and luckily the only person that came to check on me was Shamarani Didi, who came up to me, and I don't even remember if she said anything, but she just looked at me with those eyes of, I know exactly what Srila Gurudev is doing to you. He's doing heart surgery, and you'll be all right. And so she arranged a darshan for me, a private darshan for me to get some instruction. And so this was pretty much the simplest darshan that was so very deep, because it was just like, he looked at me, it was like, I want you to become hollow like a flute, and so Krishna can play through you. And I felt like just the tears of just washing away, of knowing that I have so much material desires. Gurudev is so pure and so merciful, but I know it's a long road ahead of me, and I can't pretend it's anything different. So it was this quality of insurmountable mercy, and this fear of knowing that this isn't a game anymore. This isn't just preaching center, chant, take prasad. It's not anything that's chanting at a rainbow. This is like, you're in front of a representative of Krishna. You know now that the scriptures are real and that he's real guru. You've got nowhere to hide in Maya anymore. So it was just very difficult not having like a whole youth assembly. Nothing's there yet. Nothing's organized. It's just a sadhu, a small little spiritual community up in the mountains, and a bunch of families there. And so what was so magical at that point is what I realized when I had learned about Srila Prabhupada in the early days, being in New York City at Matchless Gifts, where it was just was no institution, and just the sweetness of Prabhupada extending mercy, trying to offer some advice to the devotees. But it was something where he had no organization. It was just he was giving morning classes of all Harikatha, Damodar Leela, and just checking in all the devotees. And it was just something where I realized, wow, I am so fortunate to be in such close proximity with such a pure devotee, and I don't even know how to behave. I know that there's a lot of ways I'm supposed to act, and I'm just learning them, and I'm realizing that, wow, I was feeling obligated to bow down to this person who is taking the role of guru in Maui, and I was never really feeling it. But when Srila Gurudev's in the room, I just fall flat down automatically, because spontaneously within my heart is a seed of Raganuga Bhakti. That was why I never had so much of attraction to much of the ISKCON temples. I ended up going, a funny little story, right after initiation to New Dwarka, because I was homeless hippie. I came to the mainland with like little no money and just stayed with a friend's house here and there. So I'm in New Dwarka as a new Narayan Raj devotee, all shaved up and not knowing anyone, not knowing where to go, but not realizing anything about the sectarian politics really so much. So I'm here wanting to ask some questions. There's a Ratha Yatra's parades going, and everyone's asking, who's your guru? Because there's a very much a fear of Narayan Raj disciples. So I end up asking Hridayananda Maharaj in front of the temple, what should you do if you are constantly hearing people make offenses to your guru? Because I would be telling people, they'd say, who's your guru? It's like the first question they'd all ask. And I'd say, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And they'd say, whoa, you're new at that. You should be reading Srila Prabhupada's books. You can't be hearing, So I was hearing all these very offensive comments. And so I just happened to go ask the GBC. I've done this a lot where I seemingly unknowingly start something. So I ask him this question, and the first thing he says, well, who is your Gurudev? And I go, Srila Narayan Maharaj. As soon as I say that, a big crowd comes around, and there's like 45 or 50 people, a bunch of guru coolies, and then a whole bunch of devotees are all going around, and he's going off and saying, he's going to Srila Prabhupada's temples and taking, and I'm trying to remember things that I had heard from some of the devotees in Harikatha. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm debating the GBC. And I just came into this like a couple weeks ago. It was just one of those funny karmas where I ended up seeing so much of the sectarian politics, but I was so much like a young bhakta in love with this guru and so amazed by it. I was like, how can these people be practicing so many years and just trust the institution for them and not wanting to go and see themselves who this intimate servant of Radharani, like, I just couldn't understand that because I guess of my nature of not really trusting authority so much, I came in directly like, oh, wow, he's controversial. But it wasn't really the force of attraction. It was because I saw his picture and I knew he's a pure devotee. I heard his voice. He's a pure devotee, I can tell. And so I was like, I must go right away to hear from him. So the Harikatha that year was not way over above my head. It was on sadhya and sadhana. I thought very, very simple. And so I just didn't know anything about how devotees made money because I knew that they would just travel with Gurudev everywhere. And that was like what they would want. So I was like, okay, well, how can I do this? I was in LA, I was young, and I was thinking, well, if I can model, I can be able to make some money. I was very desperate. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so much Maya. I couldn't do that. I would go around some of like the Mayavads because I was really into raw foods. And after receiving initiation from Gurudev, all of the Mayavad Katha was just so much more intolerable than before I was given initiation. So I was like, wow, I really don't want this association, but how am I going to, make money to be able to be with Gurudev? And so by fortune, I ended up meeting some of the devotees, Upananda Prabhu, who's now Avadut Maharaj, Sadhananda and Jayanta, and they have the Govinda's Bliss Bar Company. And so when they all came to Maui, I ended up distributing all of my raw food Mahaprasadam to all the devotees, and then they tasted it and like, we want to work with you and have you work with our company to be able to design stuff. So I had immediately, my association was living in the Bliss Bar Company with all the devotees, doing kirtan every day and making the Govinda's raw power food. So I was learning how to take what skills and services inspiration I had to serve the devotees. Now that company is no longer working, but like 5 hours from here is Gopal's. It's a thriving company hiring a lot of devotees. They have a farm community. And so they basically were the reincarnation of Govinda's. So
where was this company based, Prabhuji?
They're based in, I forget it's a small town in Texas. They've had like up to like 40, 50 devotees out there in Kartik, especially when the COVID was at peak. Everyone was just going up, living in a more of a self-sufficient atmosphere, making energy bars. But now there's, I think there's about 16 or so. still
So
living out there.
you were also working on the same place.
I'm not working with them anymore. I've not worked.
No,
with them
that time you were in the same
yeah,
place.
at that time I had helped start it, and then I began the Govinda's Bliss Bar.
Oh, you were the idea behind it.
Yeah, I was not a long-term partner, but I've done that all over the world, designing products and working with some devotees, some non-devotees. But that was just my first year with the devotees. So after that, my life was kind of caught between wanting to work with the Govindas, different projects in America, but then Srila Gurudev would always go back to Oahu to do his more private programs for Nisringa Chaturdasi, and I was given initiation on Nisringa Chaturdasi, and the woman who had introduced me to Gurudev gave me the name Madhava as a nickname, and then Gurudev gave me the name Madhavananda Das. So it was very much, I kind of knew that was the name he was going to give me, and it was very difficult because I knew the standard that he wanted me to go be a brahmachari and live in the ashram, and I'd been to India like only once. I didn't go to India till '99, but I was I had some fear about going to India because of my love for raw foods, and it was never a very difficult it was a difficult transition for me, some things with the diet and the lifestyle, but ultimately I could see that it took a couple years for Gurudev to get that I was a little bit different than some of the devotees there, and we developed an interesting rapport. But the first couple years, I was sometimes wearing a Muslim hat or very unique, very non-devotee clothes. And so it was kind of something where the first couple years, especially, I was so attracted to Gurudev, and there was a handful of very unique devotees that somehow caught within the preaching of Maui and some of the other places we'd travel. But it was still something where there wasn't very much a youth presence. It was very young children and the older Prabhupada devotees. So it was very much some years I was one of these few persons where did he come from? Because I was living in Hawaii, but I would be traveling to Badger, to the festival, and into wherever I could go to see Gurudev. I had, very much, I should say, fly-by-night businesses before I worked with the Govindas people, and very unconventional, but I would always be showing up there, and I was one of those persons that would never leave, but was never quite adapted to the devotees fully. So I will share my favorite pastime now with Srila Gurudev, where I felt the most of his mercy and the direct experience of when he answers a question, we don't always fully understand it, sometimes for years. Sometimes we have an intellectual understanding. The other devotees that are around will hear something differently, and they'll explain it. Oh, he answered it. This is what he meant by this. And people can argue, here's what Guru meant by a certain thing. Some of the times you get an answer from Gurudev that is so much more than the words and so life-changing. So become hollow like a flute. That was the first thing he said to me. And that process happened many, many times when I felt Gurudev's mercy, whether in his presence or just feeling his mercy from doing bhajan, feeling the reality of his eternal love and affection. But this time was a form of a chastisement. So I don't remember the exact year. I think it could have been 2003, but it was a morning walk, and I had been, let's say, very much every time I would see Gurudev for after 9/11, especially, I was in this mood of thinking the world is going to change very soon, and I don't know where I want to be in the world, but I want to be with Gurudev. Very worried about all the conspiracies and things happening. And so I had this desire to ask Gurudev a question about all this research I did in the Bhagavatam that Prabhupada wrote many times about Rakshasas run the political parties, and they're going to create emergencies so that, people will have to live out in the forest and live on root. And so I was one of those devotees that was like wanting to ask Gurudev a very controversial question and never seemed to be the right time for it. So I just happened to ask it at the absolute worst time possible. There just happened to be someone from the NSA, I think he was FBI, he was an Asian person who came there with tilak saying, yeah, I'm part of the national, but I'm interested in Krishna consciousness. I want to check this out. So the devotees didn't quite know what to do, but they were all very respectful. They in the inner circle, they prashad with them. They're very, very open and transparent. But it was nonetheless someone from like national security on the morning walks. And so I go up to Gurudev and like, Srila Gurudev? Yes. And I was very much, especially in morning walks, some of the times he didn't really want juniors asking questions if they were not something very relevant. And some of the times, you know, he would chastise people for, and so I knew it was kind of like, might not be the appropriate place, but I had this burning desire to ask him. But I had heard him say things when he was asked about the Illuminati and different things that was like, oh, just chant Hare Krishna and don't think about these things. So I was like, okay, I don't want him to just say, just chant Hare Krishna. So I asked him in a tricky way. So I said, Srila Gurudev, other than chanting Hare Krishna, what should we do about the Rakshasas that Srila Prabhupada wrote in his books are destroying the world with their rascal schemes? Like, what should we do about? So and so he kind of shocked at first and looks at me and goes, why are you thinking like this? And then he starts moving with his hands. He says, he has given me Harinam on the Shringa Chaturdasi. So many times if Gurudev was very heavy, he would look like Nishringa to me. So he was like, why are you thinking like these things? I want you fearless like Prahlad. And he get very, very heavy with me. And so that was his answer. And then what happened after that, though, was very, very mystical, because I was like, okay, I better just chant Hare Krishna. And I started chanting, and it was the first time I had chanted more than 32 rounds. I chanted 72 rounds that day, but almost involuntarily. I was not knowing how it was like a mystical thing of how so many japa was coming, and I was pronouncing the mantra. I wasn't like abbreviating it, but he was giving me the experience. And I think then I saw afterwards, why was he angry? It was like, no, you must have faith in the Nam. No, there is no other way. No, Krishna is your only shelter. Harinam is your only shelter. Faith in Guru is your only shelter. So the answer to his question was what he filled me with by his chastisement, like Nishringadev, in the answer. Other than chanting Hare Krishna, no. There are tons of problems in this world, and there's no other solution. And I'm giving you an experience of the mantra and the shelter to know that this is your only shelter here in this world. So that was an experience for me that was it was actually on video. I think it got taken down. There was a lot of video, but it was one that really made a lasting impression of how when the acharyas, when we sing the bhajans in our youth the way I did, I just remember hearing some of the heavy bhajans of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, hearing, oh, my life is pathetic. I cannot do bhajan now because I am afflicted by the threefold miseries. When you're young, you hear those things in a very different way. As you get older and you understand how much of a distraction you have, how much mercy you've been given, and then you think about, oh, I don't want to think about the material things of this world, but I have to focus on my health. Oh, I have to focus on finances. And when I was young with Gurudev, I knew that every moment I was around him, it was an investment in my spiritual health, my spiritual wealth, that I needed to sacrifice whatever. Oh, shoot, if I stay focused and grounded here and not go to Badger or not do this, I can focus more on my material life. And I would never do that. But then I also realized, oh, I'm not really so overly focused materially, or not enough spiritual discipline to go on tour with Gurudev as a brahmachari. So I felt so much pain knowing that I felt like the Arjuna describes the riven cloud that is, half-developed yogi, half-baked yogi, so it was something where that pain and that separation from feeling that Gurudev has a very high standard of what he wants from me, and knowing throughout the years, any little bit of bringing someone to him, bringing in an offering. I just remember in Gurudev's servant, Madhav Maharaj, just came and thanked me profusely for bringing rose apples to Gurudev, because it's very rare. They have them in Maui. They're in Krishna Lila, very rose-tasting apple. And I just remember the smile that he gave me when saying, oh, Gurudev was very happy, just knowing in such a small way that you can please Gurudev. I would ask him sometimes, like if I could do certain seva, because I didn't always do this. I would give it audio cassettes audio CDs with Gurudev's Katha mixed with bhajans. And I was not so much liking to do always book distributing the same way. So I made thousands and made my own sleeves and different mixes of Krishnadas and all the different devotees in our Sangha. I would give them out to people, and people still come up and say, oh, I still have some of these bhajan CDs. But I was very much self-motivated like that. So one time when in the ocean with Gurudev swimming, I just said, Gurudev, can I distribute CDs for you with your Katha and bhajans? And he very mercifully looked at me and said, anything you do thinking of me, you do for Krishna, I will accept and will keep you free from Maya. So over the years, he really saw that I felt some shame and some guilt for not doing everything the way that many of the temple devotees did. And every year I would sincerely try to bring offerings, do whatever I could, but it was a very high standard. And I saw how much I was not always up to par with that, but I realized over the years that the magic was not just in thinking I'm very qualified, in knowing I am not qualified, but Gurudev's mercy is stronger than my unqualification. And so that was something that really he would give to us when he would say, don't be hopeless. He would speak some very high katha, and then after a while he would be like, oh, but first you must not criticize one another, because you can't just do speaking high katha and do very Rasik Bhajan and think that your Sangha is going to be able to, as a whole, be able to serve me. He's like, I want you to have love and affection for one another. I want you to not gossip and fight amongst, oneself. And it's very easy in what most devotees have known with when everyone's wanting to serve Shri Gurudev, but everyone is also always hearing Katha somewhat in their own way and feeling, oh, this is the most important seva. Oh, this is the most important seva. So over the years, you begin to see, okay, wow, this devotee that I might have some differences with, they're so sincere in their service to Gurudev. When Gurudev would come and unite everyone, then any of the offenses I feel like I would do, or other people do, are all forgiven, because of Gurudev's mercy would unite people. And so these are the things that, after Gurudev entered Nitya Leela, require so much more prayer, for us to be able to pray for that mercy, to be able to have the humility to honor and respect all our God brothers and God sisters, and know that parts of Gurudev's mercy are all in them. And even if we have our own, I remember when that person was, we have all of our own gossip we've heard about anything and anyone, we have to be able to come to terms and see that Gurudev's a doctor. We're all in the hospital, and he's so merciful and just wants us to not fight amongst each other and to sincerely serve more. And I'm praying to be able to increase my service for Gurudev, even if it feels like some of the times that, there's more and more fractions within, the different sanghas, and feels like it can be divided. You doing things like this, people hearing the mercy of Gurudev and how he's affected so many souls all across this world, can help bring that lobha, that greed for Guru Seva. And when we have that greed, we'll find opportunities, I realize. When we have that greed for doing sadhana, we're going to find time for it. We're going to wake up earlier naturally. We're going to find people that are thirsty for the mercy of Guru. And want to hear Harikatha. And some of the most amazing things for me happens like on Harinam, if I'm, chanting, but there's not really any real preaching. And then after the kirtan, I have a little bit of taste of kirtan. There's one person that's there asking one question. And if they're sincere and they ask a question, then all of a sudden, Gurudev comes through me to share stories of Guru's mercy, to inspire some katha, exactly what they need to hear. So I know that it's not like we can feel disqualified by any of our lack of, whether it's following, not chanting enough, any of our offenses any of these things, we can feel, oh, I'm so disqualified. I have no ability to inspire anyone in Guru Seva. But what I've learned over the years is that when there's Seva, if we're just a little bit open and we have just a little bit love and faith of Gurudev, that he'll engage us. And that's something that we won't see it when we're in apathy. And that's the problem some of the times is devotees can confuse humility and apathy. And apathy is very dangerous. Apathy is what the whole of the material world of Maya is based on. Everything around you is distracting you from Krishna. And when we see that, that is our own Maya, because although everything is illusory in this Maya world, by the grace of Guru, we're given the understanding of Yoga Maya, to be able to see how the pure devotee sees. And that's like, how do we see that? We pray for their mercy so that we can, from internally, from our Paramatma, from Guru within us, we can see that guidance in our lives now to know where there's advanced association, to know where our association isn't good and we have to really just do sadhana and stay within, and when we need to go out and find association where there's people that actually want to hear the glories of Krishna now. Because right now there's such a disturbance of people's Maya, whether it's the security of socializing because of the lockdown, the security of being able to, even just for devotees, being able to travel and have association. If devotees with money, they can travel whenever they want to go get sadhu sangha. Some of the times in the lockdown, people can't. So everyone's experiencing, due to, these changes, the sense of, where am I really at spiritually? Am I allowing my fears to override my faith in Krishna? That all of these things that seem to be materially caustic in my life, whether it's with my health, my business, my family, all of these disturbances, how is Krishna's mercy in this? How can I see Guru's mercy in this? And how can I actually engage in more sincere prayer? So that's my prayer right now, that we can all remember these things, because Guru's mercy is really alive in anyone who's been so slightly touched. It's not just about, like, I may have had more association, and there's many more exalted devotees who've had, just like Srila Prabhupada, he didn't have so much association with Bhakti Siddhanta, but he took that very, very strong and seriously. And I think any person who's met Srila Gurudev, even just two experiences that I had, I'd say permanently changed me and allowed me to be able to access and open that remembrance of Guru's mercy, and to know his instruction of what he wants from me, of how to serve. And that's enough to make anyone's life successful, and to be able to not give up hope. Because it's easy for, especially now with so many things, with health and financial challenges, and challenges within different people's freedoms within the countries that are going through so much because of these things, that people can get apathetic. But when we can actually realize that Guru's mercy gets stronger when there's more difficulty, we just have to be able to surrender more and not allow our mind to be subject by other people's infectious fears. Because so much, there's that discernment that is with any illness or with any amount of information propaganda, where we have to have, if you don't have sadhana, you don't have good sadhana, then our mental discrimination for what is lies and what is real in the world, we will be so bewildered by so many, whether it's news or conspiracies, so much distractions for our mind. So whenever I feel Gurudev's mercy, he gives me that reminder, only I can give you this wisdom and discernment to know what's going on in the material world and to know spiritually what you need. So being able to have that sadhana, so you can have discernment in your mental and in your physical life of what you expose yourself to in the form of association, because it's very much not just something with a disease. It's really right now people's fears and submission to very much very dangerous agendas that are based on exploitation. There's so much of that going on in the world, and when we do sadhana, we can hear Gurudev and Krishna Gauranga's message that gives us the liberation, so that we don't have these material fears of things in this world, but know with strong faith that Guru and Krishna provide a way, and we need to continue just serving and doing sadhana. And I pray that any little bit of something I've said may have inspired a small amount of faith in Shri Guru, then my life is successful.
Great, Prabhu. You said you came to India. So how long was your trip? You said you came only once.
Oh, I came to India only twice in this lifetime. My first trip was in 1999. I'll just speak a little bit about that. I was very unprepared for India. I came with one of my best friends who I'm living here with now, who's a devotee of Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. And during this time in 1999, there was not so much provision for Westerners. We didn't have a special nice place to sleep. We had like usually a curtain between male and female devotees.
Yes.
And people be coughing all night. It was very hard to sleep. And my health was not so good there in India. I had every 3 or 4 days, I would have to go back out into Vrindavan and come back from Parikram because my stomach was not feeling so good. And so I was able to be a part of many of the parikrams, many of the holy places, but it was still something where I was feeling very like I was in over my head at that time. But I still got some good impressions. The second time I came to India, I did not have as much. I was actually flown in from a princess related to Krishna's dynasty for work. It was a very unique story in Mumbai, but that was a whole different. So really, most of my association with Srila Gurudev was in the West, in Badger and in Hawaii, and many morning walks and things in Hawaii, and then in Australia. I saw him in Australia as well for some festivals.
So you said Hawaii is your home. So
Hawaii is my main home. I'm traveling now, visiting friends in Texas. Yeah.
Okay. So when Gurudev used to come to Hawaii, you were there with him all the time, right?
Yes. I would come the first 4 years he came to Maui, and they started coming to Big Island. He would always come to Oahu for writing. The Oahu was some of the most intimate times, because after like 2000, there was a very big entourage of people all over. And so for the devotees in Hawaii, we had very special small darshans, and he was out by the ocean and writing, and he was very, very calm. There's such a difference when Gurudev was in his sadhu mode and in his yoga acharya mode, because it was like, because of the fact that I was able to spend the first couple years seeing him mostly in sadhu mode, there was this quality of seeing this Brajvasi, very, very like absorbed in his sadhana, and just wanting to speak so much high Harikatha to us, and seeing, after the first couple of years, I have to back up a bit. I'm gonna read the 24 gurus and speak some very heavy things, so people can know that I'm not just Sahaja speaking Harikatha, that you must follow all these. So he backed the first couple of years. It was just I want to speak sweet Harikatha to you and nourish the Bhakti Lata Beach. And then he was like, there's so many people from so many different backgrounds, and I want to speak these things, but I have to make sure that they're following the basics. And so over the years, I could see, I don't want to say disappointment, but there was this quality that after the first couple of years, he had to come more onto Madhyam. The guru is always an uttam, but he has to extend himself to speak for many things that he doesn't want to, just because the devotees need to hear these things. So just the fact that I got to hear so much of his katha in this early point in time, I developed that faith in knowing that, wow, I know I've heard stories of Krishna and the gopis, Krishna with Mother Yashoda. He was all speaking Damodar. They are very sweet the first couple years. All the just long katha. He would of course ask some of the devotees to speak different parts. But it was something when he would be speaking this Harikatha, I was like, he knows Mother Yashoda, he knows baby Krishna, and he's speaking with the authenticity, like if someone's speaking of their own family member, how they can speak with so much affection and direct connection. And so that was when I realized, like, I didn't understand, because I was so much like, oh, I want to do lots of kirtan, but why hearing so much Harikatha? Why we not just do so much, because I came in from the hippie side wanting to just do lots of kirtan, take prasad, and this is spiritually very energizing. But the Mayavad, they experience the Shakti of kirtan, and very, very over so much association. Once the ego gets out of the way, they can accept authority of Guru in the transmission of the Shabda Brahma, and why we accept the mantra in the disciplic succession and all of that. But when you're raised with everything metaphysical and spiritual is all for give you energy, you can experience kirtan's external quality that is like, wow, kirtan has all this power in it, the whole names of God. If I get a name, a spiritual name from a guru, I'll have a name of God, it'll be my name, and I can have, so many people can approach Guru with desiring that. And so what I saw was the more association I had with Gurudev, of how powerful he was, how he could look at you and know exactly what was going through you. He would many times just scan the whole audience looking through, and I was like, wow, he's just like able to know all of our Maya, who's been doing seva, who's been total rascal. He just scans through, knows all of that. Now he knows what Harikatha to speak. And he would always speak things that would be like, everyone would be like, wow, he was just saying that just for me. That's the quality, like Krishna can be dancing with, millions and billions of gopis, and they are all experiencing like it's a very intimate, small rasa dance. And Krishna's, only with me. So that quality of Guru, I saw over and over again, of how he would be able to know exactly when to speak something very soft and very sweet, when to chastise the ego, and then the hardest part, when to totally ignore you. And I'll speak one of a very humbling pastime that happened in Hawaii. Some of the times in my youth with Krishna consciousness, I would meet people that be very, very interested in chanting, but from many mixed backgrounds. So it just so happened that this year I meet a woman who was into the Santo Daime, which was a group in South America that was very into chanting, both Hindu and Portuguese. They would take this drug called ayahuasca, and they would do these ceremonies, and they had a whole tradition mixing Catholicism, and then they would do different Hindu. It was very mixed, but there was a big church of these people in the Santo Daime in South America that before I had introduced him to my girlfriend, they had just initiated a church of 35 members who had all seen Srila Gurudev in their vision before he showed up. And so they all came, they all took initiation. It was quite a interesting thing for the devotees, because all of a sudden out of nowhere, 35 of these native Portuguese who had no experience in Krishna consciousness all came to meet Srila Gurudev. So he came, initiated them all, and in Hawaii, a couple months later, my girlfriend, I introduced her. I didn't know what to do in this relationship. I knew she had to meet Gurudev, but I was feeling like, I don't know if I can. This is just a little too weird. She sings these strange Portuguese songs. She likes kirtan, but I at least have to have her meet Gurudev. But I was not being forthright. This is my Gurudev. This is my girlfriend Gurudev. She's part of this ayahuasca. I didn't want to introduce her like that. So she was a photographer. So I was like, this is Michaela. She's a photographer and she wants to take pictures of you. Gurudev did not want to hear any of that. He's not he knew exactly what was going on. He looked at her and goes, why you not want initiation? So she's like, Gurudev, I've already taken initiation. And he's like, what? And he's like, the Santo Daime. And then he asks Braja, Santo Daime, what day? And he goes, oh, that was the group in Brazil. And, oh, they all come, they all take. You know, he's like, well, why not? He's like, no, I am part of this tradition, and they worship, you know. And so she starts like trying to explain that, because she didn't quite get that he had just, and I didn't even know that either. So he was just like, yes, they all came, they all took initiation, and take the mantra now. You know, so it was very funny like that. But then my friend was like, you know, your girlfriend, she's really out there. She's like talking to Gurudev about ayahuasca. And so I didn't understand this whole pastime. But the Gurudev, after that next day, he just looked away from me. So I realized, never be anything less than humble and honest with Guru. He knows and sees all. Don't ever think that you can hide anything from him. So that was like my only experience where I was like, chastising is great. Praise, I'm a little suspicious of, but yes, if you know, it's better than being ignored. So be totally forthright, because I had times, honestly, where I felt so fallen as a devotee that I did not want Gurudev's legacy to be oh, that Madhavananda, he's rascal, he's bogus devotee. So one year in Oahu, I think it was like the second year, third year, I was thinking like, okay, you can't do this anymore. You can't be, you know, not following properly, being a disciple of Narayana. She's so gloriful. He's so much glories. He's so exalted. People criticize him because of you. So I was planning on giving him my beads and saying, Gurudev, I can't represent you. I'm too fallen. You've tried for a couple years and I just can't. So I was in my head thinking, okay, you have to do this because you don't want. And so as soon as I come to him, he many times wouldn't greet me with like, oh, Madhavananda, but this time he was like, oh, my Madhavananda, and completely, and gave me a big hug, right? And so it was this thing where he completely just extinguished this whole, you know, so he knew when we were in our complete humility where we knew we were nothing, and whenever I was like, oh, I'm doing this seva, and he just looked at me like, oh no, don't you, you know. So he never really, he knew that I didn't really want compliments, and that I much rather have him come as Nishringa for me. So I accepted that some of the times by circumstance I got some of his wrath, but it was always so much with love, that he knew that he had to destroy my ego that thought, like once I remember bringing Sri Padyavali and some of these higher books that I was reading in a Kushakrat translation. So he would sometimes chastise, why you so, you should just be Bhagavatam, and you know. So he saw some of the tendency to want to, his devotees to want to go beyond their means. It was very quick to be able to cut that off and know exactly what we needed to hear. Just lost you. Oh,
I can hear you. Yes, you're good.
oh, anyways, the screen just left. Okay, so yes, so he always knew exactly how, and when I would see in darshans, he would be sometimes so heavy with some brahmachari, and the next person be completely sweet. Next, it would be a baby, be laughing, joking with it. So there was never anything personal about whether he was praising you or chastising you. It was exactly what Krishna within him would be doing, because we need guru that never has any ulterior mundane motives. They're always completely new in the moment, you know, not just hangry, oh, what will other devotees say, what will this other institution say. And that was something that I always admired, that he was controversial in that he knew that what he was giving in very high Rasikatha, even though he would back it up many times accordingly, his mood that he knew was the essence of all the acharyas and what needed to be given for future generations. He would say that some of the times, like when he gave Gita Govinda, He was like, I'm not giving this because I think you were qualified, but so that is a qualified version comes to the world, so that when people are ready, they can have this jewels as it is, this very exalted literature. So he gave us so much that he knew that we would have to grow into, and so much of the kata was things that in the first couple of years I could not get the full depth of it, but I knew the potency of hearing it. I had faith in that. And what I pray that I do know is true, that when you have any bits of mercy, it just takes the udipan, the stimuli of his devotees or any sincere jiva inquiring into the nature of Sri Guru. Because as I said, I can't tell you from my experience with Mahaprabhu, with Nityananda, with all of the acharyas I have not had personal direct darshan. I've felt moods of different acharyas and Radha Krishna and different experiences. But with Gurudev, when you have any of his association, that depth is so powerful that its mercy has changed so many souls that there's never really enough of that kata, because it's unlimited, really, because so many people he's touched, and there's always more stories. So what I can see you're doing is you're archiving the kata of Gurudev, the glories of Gurudev.
We have done almost
a large storehouse.
120 programs on this. 120 people have already spoken, and there's so many more to come yet. So it's going ongoing for so long. Yeah.
Yes.
You're right.
Okay. I've actually gone over what I thought I was.
No, you have time. You can speak if you want.
Yeah. Okay. I will actually just wrap things up. I think I've given enough. I'm grateful for the engagement in this service, because every time I'm not able to, glorify Gurudev at a program, some of the times by my travels over Asia and different places, I've not had. Some of the times Gurudev has come so merciful in dreams when I've not had association on special holy days. And I know that Gurudev's mercy extends so far beyond where we can know. Some of the dreams, I actually had one of my rare dreams with Gurudev the morning up before the eclipse, because I've been an astrologer most of my life. I'm very much orthodox when it comes to eclipses and try to disregard any material engagements and focus on bhajan and pray. So the morning before the eclipse, ended up my good friend Govinda Dasi, this Prabhupada devotee from Hawaii, she was there, and we're in this small cave, and Gurudev was just in his lungi, and I was going to chant away from this hot spring and all these people so I could prepare for the eclipse and chant, and Srila Gurudev is there. And so it was something where I was like, oh, once again, I'm trying to take shelter from the holy name, in the holy name during the eclipse, and Gurudev is coming into my dream, reminding me that it's like, yes, I am your shelter. I am always here. I am always here with you, and just waiting till you stop the chatter of your own mind, ego, all of the other miseries in this world trying to direct you, and hear Paramatma. Because once we fully surrender our hearts to Gurudev, even just once, it's like that is there as Paramatma, that we can pratyahara, drop all of the engagements in the world and tune in there, and Gurudev instructs us from within and instructs us how we can have greater association. And some of the times in this world, it's very difficult when many people, many devotees too, are going through much difficulties, and we want to have good association, but everyone's going through karmic, turbulence. And we know that when we access the holy name, Gurudev's there to give us taste and give us strength, so that we can rise, put our feet on the head of these challenges, as he would always say. He many times had to just say very, very simple things with so much faith. And that was what I realized when he said, you become hollow like a flute and Krishna will play through you. That's something that always loops whenever I look at what am I full of, my ahamkar, my ego, my false shelter. And I realize now, as I get older, that any of the things I thought were shelter, whether it's healthy foods, yoga, any of the things that when I first joined the devotees, I was like, oh, we're so much more evolved because we do this, this, and this, and the devotees, eat sugar and healthy. And so I had a lot of my offensive anarthas because of my material thing. And over time, I realized all of these false shelters, yes, they all have their place in a limited degree, but only Guru and Krishna is our real shelter. And all of these shelters are going to disappoint you later. And they all will fall short of making your mind fearless in the face of death, in the face of suffering and attachment. So it's like, as time goes on, I realize all of Gurudev's teachings get so much deeper, because the part of us that's resisting the hamkar, the separation that goes, no, I can enjoy on my own, and I'll still find out a way to become Krishna conscious because I'm very intelligent, devious, and I'll figure out a way to both enjoy my senses, look like I'm practicing a little bit better than I can so I can get adoration, pratishta from other devotees, and still hide all my anarthas, because if I keep them hidden long enough, then maybe they'll go away on their own. Right now, I feel like in my life, in many devotees' lives, we see there's so much more stress, so much more difficulty with many people's health. There's so many more things that are impetus for surrender. But if we think that, okay, if I control the material energy more and just become more of a controller, then I'll be able to get a high thing. But I don't have any time to do sadhana because I got so many things to control in my lives. And realizing how much the hamkar is wanting to do that right now. And then as soon as we do sadhana, as soon as we tap into Guru Gauranga and faith in the holy name, then all of our material anxieties start shedding away. One of the interesting things is that without even trying, some of the times, effortlessly, the path of certain decisions that our mind has that we're in anxiety about make themselves clear. Krishna clears the way from just doing sadhana, and Guru reminds us of that. But when the material anarthas and our material, all of the faith, the things that distracts our mind way up, then we forget that. But when we actually do our sadhana sincerely and pray, oh, Guru, please give me taste in the holy name. Oh, Gauranga, please give me this mercy so I can understand that everything in this world, nothing has any pleasure or real taste at all, aside from things that are directly connected to Guru and Krishna. When we know that, and in my lifetime experiences I had with Gurudev, many of them were so much of feeling that and knowing all my anarthas that were blocking it. Like many times at the festival, I would feel this blockage of going, Gurudev's trying to reach my heart, but I've got, he would say, you've surrendered your heart and you keep the key in your back pocket. So that was very much like, we would have an experience and be like, oh, Gurudev's mercy. Oh, I just have to surrender. And then we contract and go back to our ego, I, me, and mine. Well, I want to surrender to Guru. I'll do service like this and this, but full surrender, no, I'm too young. I have too many things I have to do. And so over time, I see, oh, none of my shelters have provided any relief from the burning pain of this material world. Guru's shelter, and how can I serve the devotees now? And so it's like that was really the funny thing is the other devotee that was in this dream was Govinda Dasi, who's very elder, who I'm helping out whatever I can with her health, and she's wanting to create a shelter for devotees. And so there's something whenever we can engage not just our tongue and bhajan, but actually real cultivating our material activities so that we don't just have to be money making, but being able to have something where we can donate a portion of it to be serving the devotees, and our energy to be able to be directly connected to Guru Seva. All of a sudden, we feel a connectivity that for me gives life. And when we have so many things that by their nature, they're distracting us from Krishna, they're thinking, oh, maybe this thing can threaten our health, maybe this is going to crash the economy. Man, there's so much material anxiety now. And so it really feels like as devotees, we're so much more needing to take shelter, but very easily our minds take shelter of so many other things because, well, I want to do sadhana and have my mind shanti and peaceful, but I got to be in survival mode now because there's all these things in the material world happening and changing. So as Guru's mercy comes in, we realize you can't afford not to. Because
Prabhuji, are you still into conspiracies that you were before?
Well, here's what I've learned over time is that the Bhagavatam is very, very blunt about what is happening in this world. Srila Prabhupada was very, very blunt about that. But we can't rest our mind in thinking that any of the conspiracy gurus have it all figured out. But we can take the warnings that our leaders in this world are very, very corrupt. Many of them, they say rakshasas, they subhuman, many of them only wanting to control with disasters and emergencies. There's a very famous quote that I post a lot about. It was Srila Prabhupada would say that our government state is rakshasa, man-eating demons, and that if soon that they would create an emergency just to destroy the freedoms in order to restrict people and take away God and religion. And so these things are very much warnings that we've had from many acharyas. And now I think it's a time where people see that there are things in this world that are result of lower spirits, bhutas and things, and that many evil beings that we're seeing much news about doing much child trafficking, things like that. These things exist in this world, that we cannot make this material world place to be a place of enjoyment. There's very strong amount of exploitation happening, and way more than people want to believe, because our minds very easily are prone to anxiety. So my understanding of how, because of being an astrologer and my astrology chart with 3 planets in the 8th house is very prone to see things in a more esoteric, shamanic, understanding astrology and tantra. All those things are ruled by the 8th house, and so it very much creates something where I have an inclination for that. But what I see what Gurudev did for me was he was like, yes, all of these things are real, and your shelter is the holy name, and just get that very clear. That experience gave me the understanding that he didn't say, oh no, this isn't how it is. The world is run by very, very good people. He wouldn't say anything like that. It's something that he also knew was probably a very difficult time with NSAB. It was just not the most appropriate time, but that was just kind of my karma at the, at that.
What does your astrology say about the future now? A lot of people are saying that the new Prema Yuga is going to start and all these things.
Yeah, yes.
What do you
I would tell, I could talk a very long time about this. I will speak very simply about this, that people love to hear anything, like, how all videos are done by dopamine addiction. If there's a lot of likes, if you have a title that's very extreme on a video, everyone will watch it.
Yes.
So people with astrology will be very happy to hear something. It's either total gloom and doom or total utopia. We're just about to enter. Everything is getting very positive. Everything is getting very negative and a lot of fear. Either way, people get a big dopamine spike and feel like, oh my God, it's all awful. I better chant more. Either way, they will get very, very moved. I understand this cycle of this year and many things, that there are many waves and cycles where things can change a lot, and there are also much things happening right now that are getting very, opening the curtains so people can see things that they were calling conspiracy, that they were saying, oh no, these things couldn't be real. So a lot of very evil people, like the people running the medical system and doing many false charities, things like that, they're going to get held accountable. And there's a time where that has to happen, and it's a good thing, but it's also, there's like a, what they would say in I do Western astrology, not just Eastern. I've studied some of both. My father introduced me to astrology at a young age, and I work with the outer planets. Neptune's a planet of illusion. So we have this cycle right now. There's a big square with retrograde Gemini dealing with communication issues, and Neptune, illusion. And so it's a point in time where a lot of things, so much speculation. And so this is actually the time, I'd say, especially these next couple weeks, where if you don't do very good sadhana and burn through all the chitta, the coverings of the mind and all the mental speculations, you'll be more confused if you watch the news, try to figure out what's going on, because there's so much delusion right now. And we really need to be able to have that strong faith in and discernment, that faith comes in of knowing that, yes, that this age has much corruption and gurus are only shelter, but with certain things that are coming now with a lot of theories about whether it's related to governments and medical, they can be very distracting, but we have to see Guru is both within us, and when we do sadhana, gives us the intelligence. So that's really what I can say is if we do our sadhana, we will be immune from some of the very inauspicious astrological elements with Mercury and Neptune that over this next month or so can take people's minds for a ride.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you so much. It was so nice to hear your story, how you started as a hippie and now you are a devote, I would say a very high class devotee. Depending on Srila Gurudev's mercy and not trying to depend on anything else in the world. Though you have temptations, but you always keep on track, as you have told. So I can see your transformation by the whole story. You're told how you started with hippie parents on a tree house, and then you read the book Sri Guru and His Grace by Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. So these books could be very, they could change your life as it has changed your life. I can see Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, these liberated souls, when they write, like how Gurudeva has written so many books, and each book is capable of changing life of so many people. So with that book, you got to understand what Guru is and how it is. And you saw Guru Purnima, you saw Gurudev's picture for the first time. And then from 100 feet away, you felt his presence like avatar. That was a wonderful description. And it's like you could feel his magnetic field, his aura from 100 feet. So a person who can feel from 100 feet also need to have a good receiver, I would say. Not everybody will feel this way as you are feeling. So you had that capability to sense Gurudev's aura from so far. And then you, very honestly, you described yourself as a 22-year-old boy with many material desires, not fitting into the Sangha. Either they were old people or they were children, but you were like a youth for 22 years old, not finding any company around, but you carried on. And
I must say that there's many exalted devotees in the Sangha that gave me much mercy, like Shamarani, like Bhaktivedanta Rani Maharaj, Prem Priyojan was very supportive. I hosted him many times over the years, and
he's so busy. I've been trying so long to get him on this program, but I can't find a date for him. He's always very busy nowadays.
His katha is so sweet. I'm so grateful that you've put this together. So it's exalted.
I'm also very lucky to have his association when he was living in India, when Gurudev was here. So we had some very good association during parikramas. So he's really nice here. And then you also talked about your condition, that you described it as Arjun described, like a cloud flake, not in this material world and not even in the spiritual world, crying like you had no material life, and spiritually you were like a baby, you described. So yes, sometimes we feel like this, but when you hold on to Gurudev's lotus feet, everything becomes very nice, as it became in your case. And you also described how Shamarani Didi helped you. And then Gurudev gave you a very strong instruction, which is valid for all of us, I think, and we should try to follow it in our life. He told you, I want you to become hollow like a flute, so that Krishna can play through you. Yes, I think this is the essence of bhajan. We are full with so much dirt inside us that Krishna cannot do anything to us. He cannot play through us as he's playing through Gurudev, like he's playing so much through him. Once I asked Srila Gurudev in Mathura, when his preaching was going on very, very good, and he was all over the place. So I said, Gurudev, you are amazing. How you are influencing so many people all over the world. How do you do all these things? How do you get this energy? How do you do it? And you know what he said? He says, hey son, listen. If Krishna wants, he can get all these things done from a wooden statue. So I am doing nothing. It is all Krishna who's doing. So this shows how hollow he is, and he's just following Krishna and his parampara's order. And he wants us to become like this, also hollow, without any giving us our own input. Just receive input from higher authorities and play it out. So yes, we are all endeavoring to become like a hollow flute, which Gurudev has told you. And you said when you went in front of Gurudev, nowhere to hide in Maya anymore. You cannot you cannot say make your stories and think that Gurudev will not know anything. Yeah, he knew everything. And you very rightly described, he would scan people sitting around him, and he would know about each and every person. I told this incident in our house. It has happened once. I just remember talking about you. So there were a lot of people, and there was one friend, my wife's friend, sitting there in the house, who was not a devotee. And like you said, he scans everybody, and he stopped at that lady. And he said, hey, you got many thousands of births ahead of you. What are you doing? You should do Harinam. I mean, out of nowhere, he spoke that you have thousands of births ahead of you. And she was not a devotee also. She was like eating meat and everything. She was just her acquaintance. So I've never heard him say such strong words to anybody. But suddenly, I mean, whenever he scans, he finds people with less number of births ahead probably. And suddenly he saw someone with thousands of births sitting there in the audience. So he was probably taken aback, and he spoke that out. So yes, he would know everything about everybody sitting around him. And then you also said very nice, whenever you went to Gurudev in the room, you fell down automatically without anything. This is what happened to all of us. You just feel like lying flat in front of him. And then you talked about ISKCON. How can these devotees trust the institution so much and not see the Guru themselves? This is, I think, very, very important. We sometimes believe more in institution than in Vaishnava or a Guru or a Sadhu. And sometimes we do not want to step. Sometimes we see appearance of a Sadhu. Sometimes we see which institution he belongs to. Gurudev always warned us against it. That no, Sadhu is a Sadhu. You should always respect him. And Gurudev also gave example of that shlok by Raya Ramanan about Laulyam, Kutoapi Labhyate. That then he explains Kutoapi means what? From wherever you get this greed for Radha Krishna, you should get it. It does not say from this institution or that institution. So yes, you were right in your thoughts there. And then then you said Mayavad Katha was so much intolerant to you at that time after you met Gurudev. And before you met Gurudev, you were into a little bit Mayavad. And you were like hippies are, I think they're already not attached to anything. It's not very difficult for hippies to become a devotee. Gurudev used to say, all the hippies have become happy now after meeting Prabhupada. And so yes, because you have very less attachments anyways. So Mayavada became intolerant. And then you talked about feeling like Prahalad because you got your initiation on Narsingh Chaturdashi. So yeah, the Gurudev gives you very strong chastisement all sometimes. And again, you talked about your condition in between. All of us are in this condition, what you're talking about, like half-baked yogi and not brahmachari. So in between, like when you traveled with Gurudev, you said that you are not like up to that all the brahmacharis and sannyasis who were traveling with Gurudev. So you like we are sort of in between most of the time, most of us. And then you said very, very powerful statement, which I really loved so much. You said Gurudev's mercy is always stronger than my disqualification. Yes, this is very important, I think, and this is so true for all of us. We should not think that we are so disqualified. Gurudev mercy is so many times more stronger than our any kind of disqualification. So he can pick up anybody and give him Radha Dasyam. It is his discretion. It is in his pocket, and he can, if he wants, he can pick up anybody from the street and hey, here Radha Dasyam for you if he likes, if he's happy with him. So we just need to make our Gurudev happy anyhow, and if we can do that, yes. Then you said very nice thing. Gurudev is a doctor and we are all in hospital. Yes, we should all realize this, that we are all in hospital. And yes, if you also said if we have little bit thoughts to do something for Gurudev, he will engage us. He will do everything, but we should have a little bit of desire. And then you talked about how Gurudev used to tell his kathas, Harikathas, like he was a family member of Krishna and Gopal, like he's saying all those things and he's talking as if he's talking about his own family. Yes, he was indeed a family member. I remember one of his videos, a Western lady asked him, Gurudev, have you ever seen Krishna? She asked directly. Most Westerns are very direct in their questions. So Gurudev smiled and he got very energetic. He said, yes, many times. Very beautiful. He's very beautiful. Not only he said, I've seen him many times, but he's describing how he looks. I mean, he was so eager to reply to it. Like normal people would get confused. What do I say? But he was so confident and you could make out that he has seen it many times and he's been playing with him. And he's describing how beautiful he looks. So yes, it is like his own family. And then you also talked about Gurudev ignoring you. Yeah, he has done this lila with so many devotees. I've heard on this program also that sometime he would ignore you to get something in your head and to correct you. But when you are down so much, and like when you described, you are about to give up your beat back to him, then he was in a totally different mood. He came and hugged you. That is so wonderful to get a hug from Srila Gurudev. I don't think many people have got hugs from him. Because normally people only get to touch his feet and offer him pranams, but you are one of the lucky ones to get hug from him. So it is great. I think you got a hug when you were going to give your beadbacks back to him. You forgot about it totally. Forget it. I'm not going to do this now. So he would know when you are down, and he would love you so much to pull you back again from there. But when you're too high, when you're too much inflated in your ego, he'll start ignoring you so that to get you back on ground. So he would play with you and he would correct you so that you understand best, because sometimes if somebody tells you, will not understand. So he had very subtle ways of getting things across and correcting you and bringing you on track. So he was like very expert in this, to how to guide his disciple in the correct path. And I can see all of his disciples are so elevated now, like you spoke, and how I could see your journey, how so many realizations you spoke about. So I can see Gurudev's mercy clearly in your life, and how he's raised your consciousness and understanding. And then oh, you talked about Gurudev's Harikatha. He said, I'm not giving this Harikatha because you're qualified, but I'm giving, if a qualified version of you or someone comes ever in the world, he can understand. Yeah, sometimes he would speak for the future. He would say, when he was writing his books, I've heard him say, these books you will not realize now. After 100 years, people will realize what I have written. So he is writing for after 100 years for those people also. He's so merciful in time and space, I would say. Like his mercy is spreading all over the globe. It's not limited to India or a village or a town. But look, he went to Mexico, he went to US, he went to Hawaii, he went to so many countries. And not only in space, but in time. He's going 100 years ahead and giving his mercy to the people who have not yet been born on earth. He's writing for those people, and he's telling, you will not understand this now. After 100 years, people will start little bit understanding what I'm giving here. So merciful he is beyond time and space. And then you spoke very nicely, made the statement, drop all of your engagements in the world and find time to be there with Gurudev. That's what you did. And I think it's very, very intelligent and smart thing to do, that you left all engagements and you traveled with him, because now you can do what engagements you have to do, but you cannot travel with him now. You cannot get that association. So I would say you were very, very intelligent and smart in making that decision. And then lastly,
that was one of the things that being a gypsy like hippie was good for, the fact that I was like very quick to drop all my material engagements and tour with heaven. Yeah.
You're already there.
It was a very good investment, that anytime I thought about like what would you gain materially from missing out in Gurudev, when I would think about missing out in this darshan, I realized, like, I think 1 year I didn't go to Badger. I didn't leave Hawaii to go to Badger. And I just realized, what did I gain materially? Not much. I thought maybe I will have my business be more stable if I don't just take off and leave in the middle of the summer. And so it's something where I after that, I learned, I was like, I'm not going to miss any Harikatha if I can so help it, because I know it's an eternal investment that you never know when the Acharya will leave. And especially after 1 year in Maui, a couple years before he entered Nitya Leela, he was like sick pastime at a Houston hospital, and all the devotees were there. It was actually the most enjoyable festival because they were all in Hawaii, this beautiful retreat center. So we're all excited for Gurudev to come, and then we realized, wow, all of this stimuli and without Gurudev here. So it was just a total separation fest, which was amazing at that, but realizing that Gurudev would be gone soon, and it was, I could feel that that was the quality, that hold on to this feeling of separation, because he's going to be in Nitya Leela, and you have to have that separation mood, you know, even while he's here. And that was really some of the times the most amazing darshans for me happened just from missing him while he was still on the planet, but like not being able to see him for financial reasons or whatever. It was like then he would come in that separation mood. And so when I remember that and think about that, I realize that's the power of the Uttam Bhagavat. They're eternal. They come for these temporary pastimes so that you can remember them, regain that faith of what it's like, of feeling like, I'm inviting you in, Gurudev, into my heart and soul. Please clean out all of this. Please do the hollowing for you. When he gave me initiation, he said, now you must cut your hair, hippie had long hair, your hair and your material desires. And I was like, I will cut my hair, Gurudev, but you got to help me with the material desires. And so it was like the hollowing of the flute is a constant process. And
so what he said when you asked him to clear your material desires, he said, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, well, he I don't know if he said yes, but I know he knew that was the process, that there was no way around. And I was very afraid, because I was just like, I was just in that place in my life where I was actually just recovered from being really sick like 2 years ago. So like 2 years before, I was in a space where I was getting into Krishna consciousness, but my health wasn't there. I didn't have much prana. And so I was just getting my prana and my youth and vitality back after being ill. And I was kind of like going, oh, now I'm just getting my health. And I'm like, oh, the devotees I'm going to be like a Brahmin. It was very, very much something that I knew would be challenging. But over time, Guru's power, Guru's desire of knowing that I would never be the same again. I would never be able to think I'll be happy just from material means alone, or that any material desire is worth that much chasing, no matter what it is, if I can't have the service of the devotees and I can't be, worshiping my Gurudev. So
yes, Prabhu, this decision which you made, it's not easy for most of the people to drop all engagements and to do satsang. It is not an easy decision for people stuck in Maya. They are always thinking of material terms. They're always thinking how much money I'm going to lose. So a lot of people cannot.
What I've learned now is that I don't get that much money for my work. I do okay here and there, but if I can, when I get any bit of money that's extra what I need, what I find the most rewarding thing, like I was doing this in Bali, I hosted Radhika and Vijay, hosting Prem Priyod, hosting sadhus for me is the best investment in my spiritual health, because
So nice.
I get to serve, help others get Harikatha and Kirtan from a bona fide source, and I get naturally enlivened. So that's been my, since Gurudev left, especially whenever I've had any bit of Lakshmi and I can do that, if I can increase the taste and greed for Harikatha and quality Kirtan from our Parampara, then I know I will feel enthusiastic and happy. Spiritually, I will get some sukriti and engage many people in Krishna Seva. And so that's
so nice, Prabhuji. That's so
my,
true.
my advice. I know it works. If you have exalted Kirtanir and prefer, sadhu who can speak Harikatha in an environment that will be received, that is the best use of finances for me. I found the most rewarding investment of any amount of dollar I spend on anything more than any entertainment. It's so rewarding.
Very nice, Prabhuji. Very nice. I think there cannot be a better investment than hosting sadhus, hearing Harikatha, and organizing kirtans. You cannot, money cannot do any better thing than that in this world. Whatever you do, I mean, this is the best investment you can do, and to be with such sadhus by leaving all engagement is the best decision you can make in your life, I think. And and lastly, you talked the final point about false shelter. Yes, we all are taking false shelter all the time. Like you were talking about healthy food. Yeah, healthy food is to extent it's okay, but it will not save your death. It is not. Healthy food, very strong, materially strong people in the world, powerful people, we think they are going to help us. No. Money, no. Now you have seen in this corona time, so much people, so much money are helpless. They are loads of money in their pockets. They are running in the hospitals, but they are not getting oxygen. Somebody is dying like that. And they are realizing that all this money and all this work is of no use to them when it is required. And people are dying, they are dying, they cannot do anything. So this is so right. If we can have proper shelter, instead of believing in material money and material people, just have faith in Krishna or Guru, then we'll be saved. Then everything will be nice and we'll be saved. As I was reading one purport of Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. He was saying independence is depending on Krishna. That is a total independence. If you're depending on Krishna, you got to worry about nothing then. You can do whatever you like because you're depending on Krishna. But we are depending on everybody, everything else and everybody else except Krishna. So that is our whole problem and disease with us. Hope with the mercy of Gurudev, someday we can have 100% shelter of him and Krishna, like you are told just now. And Prabhuji, thank you so much for inspiring. And I can see your realizations with being with Srila Gurudev, and I can see your beautiful life going so nicely. So nowadays you are living in Austin only, or you keep going to Hawaii?
I have different, I still have travel for work. I design health products, and I may be going to Oregon still, maybe going back to Hawaii soon. It's actually a very, because I understand astrology, it's a bit inauspicious right now for me to make excessive plans until this next month is over. So I'm now focusing on praying for that mercy of Krishna, a couple of different material things, seeing how they end up, and if I'm going back to Hawaii just now, because there's a festival happening with Siddhanti Maharaj that's kind of tempting, but it's I can stay here and serve him here with the devotees who are going to be serving him in July as well. So anyways, I'm praying for the wisdom at every moment to be able to make correct choices, to have more engagement in seva of Guru and the Vaishnavas. Thank you for all that you're doing by archiving all of these wonderful memories of Srila Gurudev. And I just implore everyone to have more and more faith in the name and in Guru as as the astrology, as all of the influences materially go through some difficult cycles, we have to have our minds very strong, fixed to the lotus feet of Sri Guru, because otherwise there's many different material and psychic factors that can disturb our focus, our determination. And I'm preaching most importantly to myself right now, because I know that it's only Guru that's inspiring these words to come through me, and on my own, without Guru's mercy, I have no potency to share these words, but Guru's gives me so much, and I am grateful for this ability to share these memories. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Madhavananda Prabhu. Thank you so much, and I thanks all the listeners. Thank you so much for being here and listening to Prabhuji's sweet Harikatha. Tomorrow again we are going to meet at 8 o'clock in the evening. Tomorrow we will have Chaitanya Chandra Prabhuji, Chirag Prabhuji. He's going to recite beautiful poetry for Srila Gurudev, even though he has not met Srila Gurudev ever. And he's a disciple of Bhakti Vedanta Sridhar Maharaj. But he has written some beautiful poetry, which he's going to sing and also explain to all of us. So again, we'll be meeting at the same time. Srila Gurudev Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Sant Koti Vaishnav Vrand ki jai. Gaur Bhakt Vrand ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki madhur smritiyon ki jai. Gaur Bhakt Vrand ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.